Welcome to the VBSC podcast. My name is Greg Herceg. I am your host, also known as the Volleyball Strength Coach, and this is the #1 podcast in the world for volleyball strength and conditioning information. And I can say that confidently because I believe we are the only podcast in the world dedicated specifically to volleyball strength and conditioning. And today we have a very cool topic. We've got the majority of our coaching staff here. We think Cece's here. She's kind of here sometimes. Technically, I think she's here. She just has really bad service. She's getting into the high school summer camp coaching mode here. But we are here with Coach Dion, Coach Gerry, and Coach Sarah. The entire coaching staff is here. We're going to talk about some mental struggles today. Some of the biggest mental struggles we see with our clients, we see within ourselves, primarily as athletes, but like adult athletes too. You know what I mean? And some of the differences between training as an adult and training, comparing ourselves to our prime, some of the things we work with our clients through and the mental struggles they deal with of like essentially playing volleyball in your late 20s, 30s, 40s, and even beyond. We do have some clients in our 50s. So we were talking a little bit before the podcast, having a really good conversation. I sort of just want to continue off from where we left off. So Sarah, I thought your input was really good here. I'm just going to have you go and start and basically just reiterate what we were saying before, if you could.
Sure. Yeah. So one of the mindsets that I have seen with my clients that could be negative is like that defeated mindset. So, as you said, we work with adults, we have people with careers and maybe marriages, maybe children and, financial constraints, right? We're not young and 20 anymore, all of us. So then you get kind of this like defeated mindset, or maybe you have injuries, right? Like, so you coming into this training, like having an injury where you didn't, before. So you're comparing what you used to be able to do, what you used to be able to perform to where you are now. And so what I like to do with these clients is like, we need to reshape their mindset. Okay, great. That used to work for you, but it doesn't anymore. So what's going to work for you now? Right? So now we have to reshape to the present. So we've got a goal set for you here, and we've got to vision set for you in like the present day.
Yeah, I think that's so true and like hits so home for me because like I've been going through that as well. I kind of got to this point last summer. I won like a doubles tournament, beat a really good young team in the finals, and I was like, I probably just peaked in my beach volleyball career. I genuinely don't think I will win a tournament that is like bigger than this because the next would be, like local AVPs or whatever. That's kind of the next step up. I was like, I just don't think I care enough to put in the effort to like do anything higher than that, right? So it's like now we kind of have to I have to reset my goals and reframing my goals around like, how do I just play volleyball to have fun? How do I still, feel like an athlete and train like an athlete and still compete without like caring about putting in the effort and sacrifice to like play at that really high level? And we're sort of, a lot of our clients come in sort of on the precipice of that in a way, or they're trying to like hit that peak, find a new peak when they thought they peaked already. And, it's our job to kind of push them to there, but it's like, we do have some people hit that point. Again, we've got clients in their 40s and 50s. They're just trying to figure out like, how do they stay athletic? How do they stay competitive? How do they not get passed up by these younger athletes without, and helping them without comparing themselves to like their 20-year-old self or something like that. I think that's, a super big one. Gerry, go ahead. Let's reiterate what you were saying before as well.
Yeah, so a big mental barrier I've commonly faced as an athlete is kind of accepting that progress isn't always linear and that sometimes to get better, you actually have to get worse first. And here's kind of what I mean by that. So right now I'm trying to switch my approach for footwork from goofy to normal, which I've done twice before and somehow reverted back. But it pretty much just means I'm taking my motor pattern that's been ingrained across thousands and thousands of reps and trying to completely rewire it. So in short term, my timing's going to be off. My connection to the ball feels a bit awkward, and it's going to lead to a sacrifice ultimately in my performance. And obviously, I want to play at the highest level every single day I go out and play. So pushing past that is kind of a mental battle for sure. But I do know that once that new pattern really starts to click over the next coming weeks, it'll allow me to kind of reach new highs in my game, which is comforting in that sense. And I kind of see that with all the time with my clients. So whether it's just fixing like a squat pattern, changing the arm swing, or really whatever it may be, they start working on something new, and performance will often dip, and they'll assume they're kind of doing something wrong. But in reality, it's just what naturally happens when you try to ingrain a totally new movement pattern. So I try to reassure them that it's completely normal and that's kind of okay to make that short-term sacrifice in exchange to reach a higher level of performance down the road.
Yeah, we kind of see the same thing with vertical jump because we do provide all of our clients with like a vertical jump testing unit, right? And so maybe they're going through like their heavy eccentric phase and their vertical is actually dropped a few inches, even though they're coming in with this, idea, and which is true that we will help them jump higher because we will, but that doesn't mean your vertical is going to go up every single week when you test it. For the most part, it's going to go down before it comes up. So we can, get that super compensation that we're looking for when our body does finally adapt to those things. And yeah, that kind of translates to a lot of different areas, with that. And it can be hard because you're like, I think it's good to like warn our clients about that ahead of time and just set proper expectations, right? So it's like, I know like we're going to work on this thing. Goofy footed is a really good one. Like it's going to feel really weird. It's going to take a really long time and you're probably not going to be jumping as high, but it's like it's going to be worth it in the long run. And Dion, you went through that same thing personally, right? You used to be goofy footed.
Hell yeah, I did. It was brutal. Yeah, no, I completely understand the struggle, Gerry. I was goofy footed until I was 19 in my first year of college, and from there I had to make the switch to one of my coaches and now close friends told me that I needed to switch my footwork, and it was not an option. And if I didn't do it, then bad things would happen. And anyway, yeah, so I ended up switching it. It took me like probably 3 or 4 months of like dedicated, like I need to do this every time to actually switch it. And it cost me like a starting spot. Like in the beginning of the year, I was trash for a while. Like I came into like my first practice in college, I bounced like 2 balls on the 3 meter line, and then like everything, I was bad other than that, but I could jump high. And then I couldn't start because I was trash at everything after I had to fix my footwork. So um, I definitely get that. And I also think that's really relatable for a lot of clients too, because tons of people need to fix their footwork. Like tons of people are goofy footed. It's so common, it's not even funny. So I think in terms of individual struggle, totally get where you're coming from there. And you have to trust the process and be stubborn about being bad for a little bit.
Didn't you say you would do like approaches like all throughout your house or something like that, like all day long?
Still do it. I do it in stores sometime. Like yeah. Honestly, it's probably like the weirdest thing about me. Like sometimes you'll see me in Walmart and I'll just be like going through just like an arm swing, just like trying to like think about how I can improve my arm swing. And I'm just sitting there like by the clothing section, just like ripping arm swing reps in the middle of Walmart. I'm pretty weird that way, but
You're like those
anyway,
guys who are like shadow boxing in public or like pretending to like cross people up playing basketball
yeah,
while they're like walking down the street, but it's just Dion bouncing balls in
yeah,
Walmart.
exactly. Yeah.
So just to kind of transition to your point, what do you think is like one of the biggest like mental struggles that you notice with clients or that you've had to deal with yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, the big one that I think I I think I'm passionate about this one is that um, people often have limitations on their own mindset, and I think that's something that I really like. They put limits on their own abilities just because they don't think that they're capable of more. And I think that something like that is like when I hear things like that, it just brings me back, like it puts me into like this, pep talk, like David Goggins mode. Like, listen, if actually it brings me back to this one quote. I don't know if you guys know Jim Quick, but he's like this memory guy who has a huge social media following on Instagram. And anyway, one of his like best quotes, like freaking love, is if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And I think that I I just love that quote, man. Like really like, and I think it applies to like a lot of our clients too, being like in their adult years. Like, yeah, like I know, but like I'm 40 now, like it just doesn't work like that anymore. Well, if you keep telling yourself that you're 40 and you're not athletic as you used to be, then like you're not gonna fight to, I don't know, like you might have to do things differently now. But like I think that quote just stands out. Like you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. Like you don't have to have those limitations. You can still do some pretty cool stuff. You just gotta work your ass off. Maybe work your ass off more than before, but I think that's a big one for me.
Yeah, that's something that as I'm aging and playing, right, 35 years old, got two kids, working out not the priority it used to be, volleyball not the priority it used to be, want to run in this business, making sure I can, support our clients, support you guys, everything like that. Sometimes I'll use that an excuse. Like in my workouts, I'm like, like, or more so when I'm playing, I'm like, I'm just kind of getting older. I'm a little bit beat up right now. Like, it's okay, if I don't win this, because I'm just like getting a little bit older. And then I sort of have to shake my head or shake myself out of it and be like, I'm still me. You know what I mean? Like I should still be beating up on all of these teams. I should still be able to, hit these workouts hard. And maybe like I have had to pull myself back of the ego of like the weights that I used to lift because I don't necessarily think that's good per se anymore. I did a lot of ego lifting that I would not have told you was ego lifting back in the day, but it was purely for the purposes of my ego at that time. And it's like, but I can still work out hard. I can still do some of these things that I'm like, even though like that inner voice is like, no, you can't do it. You're like, too old to do this now or whatever. You're going to get hurt, all those type of things, and definitely have to like fight through a lot of that. And just like remember that like, I'm still kind of good at volleyball, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's good. It's, there's something I was going to say about that, but it's like, yeah, it's the entire thing of the limiting beliefs. And it's like whether you can or you can't, or whether you think you can or you can't, you're right type of stuff. And again, not setting boundaries for those clients, but trying to open up those limiting beliefs on what they really are or are not able to do. Sarah, go ahead if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something, and just kind of in tandem with what you're saying. So I feel that so often we just need to give ourselves permission to accept that this is where we are now. Like I find with clients, like, okay, great, that's where you were. This is where you are. Like, it's okay. Accept that this is your new normal. This is your new reality. And give yourself permission to let go of what I used to be able to do, what I used to be capable of. And you're going to discover through great programming, through really good resources, through good accountability, that you're still capable of some amazing achievements, right? It might look a little different for you here, but you're not over the hill, you're not done. It's going to look different, and give yourself permission to explore that. Give yourself permission to try something new, a new lifting program, a new jump technique, right? Like Gerry and Dion, like new arm swings and new approaches. And you're going to find out, you're going to come out pretty incredible still. It might look a little different, but you're going to be really proud of yourself. And you're not over the hill yet, right? There's still a lot left in you. It's just going to look a little different. And sometimes it's just letting go of like what used to be and embracing something new.
I always like to come back to the fact that in the last beach volleyball Olympics, two of our four men's Olympians were in their 40s. So,
I
that's
love that.
always a good reminder. Yeah, no, that's great. And it's like, yeah, just making sure people kind of like have the correct that like, they're setting high enough expectations for themselves on what they can accomplish. Especially like with something like this. And mine that I was kind of thinking of, and we deal with it with our current clients, but they've sort of gotten over it to even join with us. It's more of like one of the things that stops people from joining on working with us is the idea of like, well, I'm not a professional athlete, so like I don't really need this level of service or this amount of stuff like the workouts and the film review and the nutrition and the all the accountability. They're like, well, I'm not a pro, so like I don't need this type of stuff or I don't deserve this type of stuff because I'm not a pro. And that's like a huge barrier that I see for people who are like coming in. They're like, I don't really think I need all that. But what I think is important to remember is like at its core, like what we do is online fitness. We just do it specifically for volleyball players. So it's like everybody needs to be fit. Everyone needs to work out. Everyone needs to eat healthy. But it's like we just specifically do that for volleyball players in particular. And I think it's a good reminder for anybody listening to this podcast that like we don't really train a lot of pros. Like we have some, I've got some pro clients. I think a few of us at Dion, I know you've got, one or two. We've got some pro clients, but it's really not who we want to work with the most. We really want to work with that recreational or like semi-professional level of player to like give them the coaching and resources that they don't typically have access to because they're not a pro or like a college player, right? And so this mindset of like, oh, well, I'm not a pro, like I don't want to, or what, like I don't want to put all my all this time and all this effort into getting better at volleyball. It's like, well, why not? Like you're still a human and you still like want to be fit. Just because you're not a pro doesn't mean you should have knee pain. Doesn't mean that you should struggle at, your game, or like you still want to get better. And like you can get in better shape and lose fat and build muscle and jump higher at the same time, So it's sort of that mental struggle that they're sort of putting on them, like, oh, because I'm not a pro, like I don't deserve to do something like this. And like I said, I feel like our clients have sort of overcome that on the fact that they have joined, right? And they see the purpose, they see what the investment is worth to them, but it definitely prevents people from jumping in the first place. So yeah, you guys have any, I think we kind of lost CC. I don't even think she's in here right now, but we wouldn't have been able to understand anything she was saying anyway. Anything else you guys want to add in to just these mental struggles that either like you're dealing with, you've seen athletes dealing with, you see our clients dealing with, anything like that?
I think there's one for me that is the rule of thirds. Like, I don't know, have you guys heard of that before?
Mhm.
Okay.
Maybe.
It's like, and I might butcher the explanation, I hope I don't, but essentially, and I was reminded of this after like one of my really bad practices. So basically, the idea is that like 30% of the time you're going to play bad, 30% of the time you're going to play good, 30% of the time you're going to play great. So basically don't get discouraged in those times that you're not having a good practice or whatever, because they happen to everyone. And like the video that I saw on this was like an Olympian talking about it, that like her coach had told her this like right before the Olympics or something like that. So I think that it's just like an important thing to keep in mind that like everyone has bad practices or bad training sessions and like it's normal. Just like remind yourself that coming up, there's good things on the horizon. It's just sticking to the process and believing that you're going to get somewhere. It'll take some time and it's not steady. That kind of comes back to Gerry's point, I guess, that it's not linear at all. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It reminds me, I think it was Alex Hermosi, who's obviously in the business world, talking about like something similar where it's like, if you look at, the 10% worst days of your life, like theoretically, you've got like 3 of those every single month. If you've got 30 days in a month, you've also got 10% best days every month. And so it's like, you can't just get caught up on those bottom 10%. Just because, but they're going to happen probably more frequently than you expect. And so it's just like pushing through that and getting back to that 10%, best days of your life kind of within that same time frame. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like it's not always going to be good. And I did think of one more that I wanted to run through. If you guys do have some client calls, you got to get on and we're still going, feel free to jump off and get on and help your clients. But it's sort of the mental struggle of balancing everything as an adult with a job and potentially a family and, all these different things and the mental struggle of how to balance all of that stuff. And I think it relates to Dion's point really well with like the 80-20 rule, So it's like you've got volleyball twice a week, lifting 3 times a week, trying to make sure you're eating healthy every day. You're working a full-time job. Maybe you got to pick up and drop off the kids. And it's like, how do you perfect all of those things? And sort of the point is like, you don't have to perfect them. So the 80-20 rule basically being like, you know, it's like 80% of the time you are perfect, and then 20% of the time you give yourself a little bit of leeway, right? And I think that's really important for our athletes who are not professional athletes, that they don't have to be perfect 100% of the time. And, you know, if you miss a day of your workout, that's why you can message us and be like, hey, I couldn't make it in today because of this. Like, how do we adjust the schedule going forward? Or if it's like, you know, you have a kind of a cheat day on the weekend or a cheat meal on the weekend, it's all about just getting right back on to best case scenario, and not like, you know, just being mad at yourself because you had this cheat day and you're like, now I'm going to quit. I'm going to blow the rest of my diet because I went off the rails this day. It's more about like, how quickly can you get back on? And, you know, if it is people who are like, one of the benefits of like working with pros is like, if you're not able to effectively fit everything that you have going on, how can we help you adjust that? Do we need shorter, more frequent workouts? Do we need to give you more meal ideas or simplify what we're doing for nutrition? Is there a way where we can have you play less volleyball for a little bit of time, you know, to kind of like allow you to focus on other things so you can actually get better? That was one of the clients that we just recently signed up. He was playing volleyball like 5 days a week for like 2 hours. And he's like, yeah, I dropped most of my leagues. I'm only going to be playing twice a week. I was like, that's perfect, because I was going to suggest if that was a reasonable possibility, right? So those type of things, like, we can help people, and our job is to help people figure out how to fit all of these things. And so you don't have to go through that mental struggle of like, you know, this is overwhelming. It's really designed to fit specifically into your lifestyle, and just knowing that not everything has to be perfect. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, quickly, I wanted to add to that just because you brought that up. So I had one client who watched our podcast on the myths, right? And so I remember I talked about how more is not always more. And so this client, she did exactly that. She's working on AVP. And so she was playing so much volleyball. She works a full-time job. They do volleyball before they go to work. So like 6 to 8 a.m., they're doing volleyball outside on the beach court. And so she decided, no, I'm not doing extra volleyball. I'm going to focus in on my training. She still did her 2 sessions a week, did her 3 lifts, and she said she played the best she's ever played because she didn't overdo it, right? She worked smarter, not harder. So I just thought that was so cool. I wanted to share that.
That's great. That's great. I love when clients, if you're a client listening to this podcast, I appreciate that, because we want you guys to stay connected on this info. So shout out to you guys. Yeah, we talked about that. If you guys haven't listened to the last episode with Miles Partain, he talked about that, like convincing his coaches that he should be playing volleyball less so that he can work out more, because his biggest limiting factor is how high he can jump, and him playing more volleyball isn't going to help him address his major limiting factor, which is his overall vertical. So yeah, just kind of going back, because there was some discussion on that post when I put that up on Instagram, which is great. We love the discourse, but you know, we maybe should have added some nuance to that, but that's okay. People kind of understood what we meant. So any other closing thoughts before we get out of here for this week's episode? No, you guys are good. Awesome. Let's go around. Let everyone know where they can find you. Just so if you guys want to follow the coaches on Instagram or elsewhere, just let them know. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm at Volleyball Coach Sarah on Instagram.
Dion?
At Dion Lala on Instagram.
Gerry?
Gerry Plays Beach on Instagram.
Awesome. And I'm the Volleyball Strength Coach on Instagram and YouTube, VB Strength Coach on TikTok. Been cross-posting more lately on the other platforms. So you'll see a little bit more of me out there. Obviously, if you're listening to this on any of the podcasting platforms, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We are uploading weekly. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Drop a like, drop a comment. If you have a podcast topic you want us to talk about, leave it down in the comments. And otherwise, we will see you next week.